We are live. Let's double check. We are live. Okay, let's double check. All right, I think we're ready to roll. Good to see everybody. And we got 17 people so far. Let's see, what song should we chant tonight? Ah, here's a good one. They're all good, actually. Wow, that's a nice chord. All right. Whoop. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Jai Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Jai Gokula Taruni Mandala Mai Jai Gokula Taruni Mandala Mahite Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Damodharati Pardana Prese Patinis Kudabrin Apipineshe Damodharati Pardana Prese Patinis Kudabrin Apipineshe Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Vishubhanu Adi Navashashi Leke Ladita Saki Ramitapi Shake Vishabhanu Dare Navashashi Leke Lalita Saki Guna Ramitapi Shake Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Karunam Guru Mae Karuna Bharate Sanaka Sanatana Barnita Charite Karunam Guru Mae Karuna Bharate Sanaka Sanatana Barnita Charite Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol. Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, Radhe, Jai Radhe, Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravatikacharya All Kuttara Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Bhavaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Say Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopinath Shyam Kun Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Mathuram Ki Jai Jagadata Sami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale, Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pracharani Nivashesha Shunyabadi, Paschatya Dejatarani. So, Omaganata Madandasha Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshuran Meditam Yena Tasmai Shigurveda Maha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So, thank you all for joining us. So, we're going to continue with our study of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. And it's nice to see such a big crowd tonight. So, Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. So we are continuing with our study of Madhya Lila, Chapter 1, and we're starting with text 42. And we're hearing about the works, just to reiterate what we heard about yesterday. We were hearing about the works of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. We heard about Gopal Bhatta Goswami. We heard about Sanatan Goswami. And I think today we're going to hear about Jiva Goswami's works. Okay, Jiva Goswami, of course, is the most erudite, elevated philosopher of all time, and he's recognized as such by even mundane academic institutions, especially for his Shat-sandarbhas. And Shat-sandarbhas are the books that elaborate. Looks like Rishikesh is drawing on my screen. So the Shat-sandarbhas are the books that elaborate on the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, beginning with the Tattva-sandarbha, which deals with epistemology. Epistemology means how do you know what you know, and ultimately the conclusion of the Tattva-sandarbha is the Bhagavatam is the highest source of knowing what you know. It's the descending process, better than Pratyaksha, better than Anuman, and I'm not going to get into the details of what that means. If any of you are interested, you can study the Tattva-sandarbha. It's available. ISKCON has published it. So let's go. Text 42. This is about Jiva Goswami. Tanra Bratus Putra Nama Shri Jiva Goswami Yatabhakti Granta Kaila Tara Antanahi. Shri Rupa Goswami's nephew, Srila Jiva Goswami, has compiled. Let me just erase this thing here. Hold on a second. Whoops, can't erase it. Anyway, sorry about that. Let's go back to the. Okay, there we go. Srila Rupa Goswami's nephew, Srila Jiva Goswami, has compiled so many books on devotional service, there is no counting them. Shri Bhagavata Sandarbha Nama Granta Vishtara Bhakti Sarantera Tate Dekhayachena Para. In Shri Bhagavat Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami has written conclusively about the ultimate end of devotional service. So the Bhagavat Sandarbha is also known as the Shat-sandarbha. In the first part, in other words, all the books of the Sandarbhas are included within the name of Bhagavat Sandarbha, although the Bhagavat Sandarbha is one of the names of the books of the Sandarbhas. Anyway, in the first part, called the Tattva Sandarbha, it is proved that Srimad Bhagavatam is the most authoritative evidence pointing to the absolute truth. That's what I just pointed out. That's epistemology. How do you know what you know? Don't trust your senses. Don't trust history. Don't trust inductive logic. Not deductive, inductive logic. Don't trust your family tradition. Trust the Bhagavatam. The second Sandarbha, called the Bhagavat Sandarbha, draws a distinction between the impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma, and describes the spiritual world and the dominion of the mode of goodness, devoid of contamination by the other two material modes. So we're talking about Vishuddha Sattva, the purified mode of goodness, not the material mode of goodness, because the material mode of goodness is contaminated by the mode of passion and ignorance. In other words, there's a vivid description of the transcendental position known as Shuddha Sattva, which is what I just said. Material goodness is apt to be contaminated by the other two material qualities, ignorance and passion. But when one is situated in the Shuddha Sattva position, there's no chance for such contamination. It is a spiritual platform of pure goodness. The potency of the Supreme Lord in the living entities is also described, and there's a description of the inconceivable energies and varieties of energies of the Lord. The potencies are divided into categories, not just two categories: internal, external, personal, marginal, and so forth. So internal is the spiritual potency, external is material potency, personal is Krishna and his expansions, and marginal, that's us buddies. There are also the jiva souls, the individual souls, the normal souls, if you can call us normal. Krishna is also normal. There are also discussions of the eternality of deity worship, the omnipotence of the deity, his all-pervasiveness, his giving shelter to everyone, his subtle and gross potencies, his personal manifestations, the expression of form, quality, and pastimes, his transcendental position, and his complete form. It is also stated that everything pertaining to the Absolute has the same potency, and that the spiritual world, the associates in the spiritual world, and the threefold energies of the Lord in the spiritual world are all transcendental. There are further discussions of threefold energies, Satchit and Ananda. That means eternity, knowledge, and bliss. In other words, the existential potency of the Lord, the cognitive potency of the Lord. That's Chit. And Ananda, the pleasure potency of the Lord. There are further discussions concerning the difference between the impersonal Brahman and personality of Godhead, the fullness of the personality of Godhead, the objective of all Vedic knowledge, the personal potency of the Lord, and the personality of Godhead as the original author of Vedic knowledge. The third Sandarbha is called Paramatma Sandarbha. In this book, there's a description of Paramatma, that means the super soul, that means Krishna in everyone's heart, and an explanation of how the super soul exists in millions and millions of living entities, actually more than millions of millions, but millions of millions is an understatement. There are discussions of the differences between the qualitative incarnations, that means those with the same quality as Krishna, and discourses concerning the living entities, that's us, Maya, the illusory energy of the Lord, the material world, and the theory of transformation. What does that mean? Vikara, transformation. It means the theory of Krishna's energies becoming transformed. Krishna never becomes transformed. Om Purnamada Purnamidam. The perfect and complete Supreme Personality of God is perfect and complete, as we said before. And even though he creates and expands in so many different ways, he remains perfectly and complete. That's Isopanishad. The illusory energy, that's Maya, which we're all under, because we're thinking we're the body. We're thinking that we're Americans. We're thinking we're male, female, human beings. White, black, purple, chartreuse. That's the illusory energy, has us hypnotized. You are the body, you are the body, you will act like the body. The sameness of this world and the super soul and the truth about this material world. In this connection, the opinions of Sridhar Swami are given. Sridhar Swami is one of the ancient acharyas who commented on the Bhagavatam. It is stated that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although devoid of material qualities, superintends all material activities. In other words, he's in charge of everything, even though he has no material qualities. But he has qualities. He has spiritual qualities. Material qualities are full of temporary nature, misery, and ignorancia. That's Spanish for ignorance. There's also discussion how Lila avatars, that means the incarnations of Krishna that do some playful activities, respond to the desires of the devotees, and how the Supreme Personality of Godhead is characterized in 6 opulences, by 6 opulences. Very elaborate treatises. The fourth Sandarbha is called the Krishna Sandarbha. In this book, Krishna is proved to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are discussions of Krishna's pastimes, qualities, his superintendence of the Purusha avatars and so forth. Now, if you remember properly, Purusha avatars means the Mahavishnu creates the whole material creation. You know, he breathes out, and all the universes in seed form. The multiverses, according to quantum mechanics, come out. And then the second Purusha avatar is the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu enters into every universe, and the Kshirodakshaya Vishnu enters into everybody's heart, also has a own vacation spot in the universe called Shvetadvip. The opinions of Sridhar Swami are corroborated. In each and every scripture, the supremacy of Krishna is stressed. Baladev, that means Balaram. Sankarshan, an expansion of Balaram, and other expansions of Krishna are emanations of Maha Sankarshana. All the incarnations and expansions exist simultaneously in the body of Krishna, who is described as two-handed. So if you worship Krishna, you're worshiping everybody. There are also descriptions of the Goloka planet, Vrindavan, the eternal place of Krishna, the identity of Goloka and Vrindavan, the Yadavas and the coward boys, both eternal associates of Krishna, the equality of the manifest and unmanifest pastimes. Manifest means the activities of Krishna that you can see, and unmanifest means those that you don't see but that are still taking place if you go to Vrindavan and you have spiritual, I wouldn't say vision, but spiritual vision, but spiritual consciousness. Sri Krishna's manifestation in Gokula, the queens of Dwarka as expansions of the internal potency. In other words, each and every queen in Dwarka, Krishna had 16,108. That's nothing for Krishna. They're all expansions, direct expansions of the gopis. And superior to them, the super excellent gopis. There's also a list of the gopis' names and a discussion of the topmost position of Srimati Radharani. Wow, what a book. The fifth Sandarbha is called Bhakti Sandarbha. In this book, there's a discussion how devotional service can be directly executed and how such service can be adjusted either directly or indirectly. There's a discussion of the knowledge of all kinds of scripture, the establishment of the Vedic institution of Varnashram. Bhakti is superior to fruitive activity. Fruitive activity means things you do, even in service to Krishna, but you want something for them. You know, worship Krishna nicely to get a nice car. It is stated also that without devotional service, even a Brahmin is condemned. There are discussions of the process of karma jag. That means giving up the results of your activities to the Supreme Personality of God, like the verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Yat Korosi Yadashnasi Yad Yahoshi Tadashi Yat. And the practices of mystic yoga, where you get some powers, and philosophical speculation, which are deprecated as simply hard labor. And for those of you who don't know what deprecated means, it means criticized, put down, considered to be useless. Worship of the demigods is discouraged, and worship of a Vaishnava is considered exalted. No respect is given to the non-devotees. There are discussions how one can be liberated even in this life, Jivan Mukta. That means even before you leave the body, you don't have to wait until you leave your body to be liberated and to realize your spiritual identity and to be partaking in Krishna's pastimes. You can do it even while you're here in this world. That's Jivan Mukta. Lord Shiva, as a devotee, and how a bhakta in his devotional service are eternally existing. It is stated that through bhakti one can attain all success because bhakti is transcendental to material qualities. There is a discussion of how the self is manifest through bhakti. Wow. There's also a discussion of the self's bliss. Bliss, for those who don't know, means happiness, ecstasy, etc. As well as how bhakti, even imperfectly executed, enables one to attain the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unmotivated devotional service is highly praised, and an explanation is given of how each devotee can achieve the platform of unmotivated service by association with other devotees, by association. There's a discussion of the differences between the Maha Bhagavat, means the greatest devotee, and the ordinary devotee. So Mahabhagavat is one who is completely Krishna conscious, seeing Krishna everywhere, seeing Krishna everything in everything, and also seeing everyone as ultimately a devotee of Krishna. The symptoms of philosophical speculation, the symptoms of self-worship or hangrao pasana, one should not engage in a hangrao pasana, hangraho pasana. The symptoms of devotional service, the symptoms of imaginary perfection. In other words, you may think you're getting more advanced than you actually are. The acceptance of regulated principles, service to the spiritual master, the Maha Bhagavat liberated devotee, and service to him, service to the Vaishnavas in general, the principles of hearing, chanting, remembering, serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Offenses in worship, offensive effects, prayers, engaging oneself as the eternal servant of the Lord, making friendships with the Lord, and surrendering everything for his pleasure. There's also a discussion of Raganuga Bhakti, spontaneous love of Godhead. So what is Raganuga Bhakti? Raganuga Bhakti is the second stage while one is performing devotional services, not the perfectional stage. First stage is Vaidhi Bhakti. Okay, Vaidhi Bhakti means you're doing everything, following the rules and regulations. You have faith that by following the rules and regulations, everything will become more relishable. And then Raganuga Bhakti means you're still following the rules and regulations, but you're doing it out of spontaneous attraction, and you're understanding who you are in the spiritual world and cultivating devotional service in the mood of one of the residents of Vrindavan. It's a brief explanation of Raganuga Bhakti. of the specific purpose of becoming a devotee of Lord Krishna and comparative study of other perfectional stages. The sixth Sandarbha is called Priti Sandarbha, a thesis on love of Godhead. Here it is stated that through love of Godhead, one becomes perfectly liberated and attains the highest goal of life. A distinction is made between the liberated condition of a personalist and those of that of an impersonalist. That means one who understands God is ultimately personal versus one who has the misunderstanding and thinks that God is ultimately impersonal. And there's a discussion of liberation during one's lifetime is distinguished from liberation from material bondage. Of course, liberation during one's lifetime is called Jivan Mukta, as we described previously. Of all kinds of liberation, liberation in loving service of the Lord is described as the most exalted, and meeting the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face is shown to be the highest perfection of life. Immediate liberation is contrasted with liberation by a gradual process. I want that immediate liberation. Both realization of Brahman and meeting with the Supreme Personality of Godhead are described as liberation within one's lifetime, but meeting with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, both internally and externally, is shown to be super excellent. Externally means he comes up and he shakes your hand like he did with Lord Brahma, above the transcendental realization of Brahman effulgence. There is a comparative study of liberation as Salokya, Samipya, Sarupya, etc. Samipya is better than Salokya. Of course. Samipya means associating with the Lord. Salokya means being on the same planet as the Lord. And Sarupya means having a similar form to that of the Lord. Devotional service in Sharsti is considered, it means having the same opulences as the Lord. And of course that's not mentioned here. But I'm just mentioning because you have 5 types of liberation: Salokya, Samipya, Sarupya, Sarsti, and also Sayuja. Sayuja means merging into the existence of the Lord. We learn this in Nectar Devotion, and devotees hate that. They will never accept that. We don't want to even temporarily lose consciousness of our individuality. We want to be eternally with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So basically, what a pure devotee wants, he's not aspiring for Salokya, Samipya, Sarupya, or Sharsti. A pure devotee is simply aspiring, Mama Janmani, Janmani Shvare Bhavatad Bhakti, Haituki to wait, and serve Krishna. Then do whatever Krishna wants, and do whatever the Guru wants. That's really love. So we're really talking about love when we're talking about Bhakti Yoga. We're not talking about how to elevate yourself higher and higher and higher and burst out from the Brahmarandra at the top of your head. Boom! We're not talking about that. We're talking about, not even a pure devotee is not thinking, I want to be more spiritually conscious. No, he's thinking, I simply want to please the Lord of my heart. That's it. That's pure devotional service. Mama Janmani Janmani Sharet Bhavatad Bhakti Ahayitagitwaya. As Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prays, birth after birth, Mama Janmani Janmani Sharet, my birth after birth, Bhavatad Bhakti Ahayitagitwaya. All I want to do is be your devotee. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur prays, Kita Janmohoyata tu Yadas. I will even take birth as a insect or worm, if that worm is your devotee. Devotional service is considered to be liberation with greater facilities, and there's a discussion how to obtain it. There are also discussions of the transcendental state one achieves after attaining the devotional platform, which is the exact position of love of Godhead, the marginal symptoms of transcendental love. So there's Mukhya and Gana, which means like direct symptoms of transcendental love and marginal symptoms, secondary, sometimes called secondary symptoms. How it is awakened, the distinction between so-called love and transcendental love. So so-called love is you like something because it pleases you. Like, I love springtime. It's now springtime. And all the little leaves are coming out of the flower, not out of the trees, sorry. And the flowers are coming out, and the birds are chirping. That's onomatopoetic. Chirp, chirp. So anyway, I love that. Why? Because it pleases me. That's not transcendental. Transcendental love is not about you, it's about the other. Krishna and other living entities. That's transcendental love. So it's really important to understand the difference between so-called love and transcendental love. So-called love is devoid of personal interest, and transcendental love is to love Krishna and love all living entities because they're connected with Krishna. That's very important. But also to know what's good for everybody. It's not enough to love everybody, but you got to know what's good. It's not enough to love Krishna, you have to know what he wants. That's a symptom. That's what love is. Anyabhila shatashunyam jnana karma navritam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhaktirutamam. Love is described as devoid of any personal self-centered interest, and also knowing what the beloved wants, doing what the beloved wants, and doing it gladly, actively, and with love, happily. So, sorry to the love. Sorry about that. On the platform of the love of God, and different types of humors. That means tastes of relationships, and mellows enjoyed in relishing the lusty affairs of the gopis, which are different from mundane affairs, which in turn are symbolical representations of pure love for Krishna. In other words, in this material world, let me unpack that sentence, we have a reflection of the spiritual realm. So in a reflection, whether we're talking about a mirror, reflection on a river, or in the computer, or whatever, the reflection indicates that something's there in reality, although the reflection itself is just a reflection. It has no other reality other than that. It has a reality as a reflection. So the reflection is like a symbol of what's happening in reality. Got it? It's a symbol, like your reflection of mirror, mirror, mirror on the wall. Who is the greatest sannyasi of them all? Not me, Prabhu. So the reflection is a symbol of what your face is actually like. It's not really your face, it's a reflection. Got it? So what we find here in different mundane affairs, and we're not talking about just between men and women, we're talking about any type of relationship, are reflections of what's happening in these supra-mundane platform. That's a big word. There are also discussions of bhakti mixed with philosophical speculation, which is called Jnana Mishra Bhakti, the super excellence of the love of the gopis. There we have the gopis again. The difference between opulent devotional service and loving devotional service. Now that's very interesting, because many devotees worship Krishna in a mood of opulence, and that opulence impedes intimacy with God. I don't think I'll get into a further description about that. But in Vrindavan, the real opulence is the intimacy the residents have with Krishna. And Vaikuntha, where they have opulent devotional service, there's a separation between the Lord and the devotees in the mood of awe and reverence. God is always to be worshipped. But in the Goloka Vrindavan, God is always to be played with, taken care of, teased, and other things like that, which is much more intimate. For example, we have many people who we approach in a very opulent way. For example, if there's, I don't want to use the example of the President of the United States, but let's say there's some exalted person for some reason or other. Or let's say the Guru, we approach him in an opulent way, Guru Maharaj. But then with Krishna, we basically roll in the dust with him. So anyway, the exalted position of the residents of Gokula, the progressively exalted positions of the friends of Krishna, the Gopas and the Gopis in parental love with Krishna, and finally the super-like excellence of the love of the Gopis and that of Srimati Radharani. So here we're going up to the different rasas. There's the relationship, the friends of Krishna. Actually, even before that, there's a relationship that the servants of Krishna have, and higher than that is a relationship of those who are friends, because it gets more intimate. And then there's a relationship of the parents of Krishna, that's even more intimate than friendship, And the most intimate relationship is the conjugal relationship between the gopis, especially Srimati Radharani and Krishna. There's also a discussion, this is really an amazing literature, the Shandarbhas, okay? There's also a discussion of how spiritual feelings can be present when one simply imitates them, and how such mellows are far superior to the ordinary mellows of mundane love. In other words, I'll give you an example. Let's say you're in Kirtan, you raise your hand, and you start imitating the dancing, even though you don't feel it, and you will feel ecstasy. And that's superior to any mellow ras, taste, it's all the same thing, in this world. It's better than going to a rave. And there are descriptions of different ecstasies, the awakening of ecstasy, transcendental qualities, the distinction of dhirodhata. So it's one of the qualities of Krishna, remember, from Nectar Devotion, dhirodhata, dhiraprashanta, and dhiralita. I'm not going to go over that. You can check your Nectar Devotion. The utmost attractiveness of conjugal love, the ecstatic features, the permanent ecstatic features, the mellows, divide into 5 transcendental features of direct loving service and indirect loving service, and considered in 7 divisions. Finally, there's a discussion of the overlapping of different rasas, and there are discussions of shanta, neutrality, servitorship, taking shelter, parental love, conjugal love, direct transcendental enjoyment, enjoyment and separation, previous attraction, and the glories of Srimati Radharani. Seems very similar to the Nectar Devotion. So a lot of the literatures of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, they reflect each other. So these Shandarbhas, very elaborate description. As you can see, you cannot compare, or you can try to compare, but basically you won't be able to compare any spiritual literature of any other tradition with these literatures, because they go into such specific detail concerning the moods of the devotees, where Krishna lives, what he does, what types of devotees Krishna has, what happens with the soul in the material world, ontology. First we start, of course, with epistemology. How do you believe, or what do you believe, and what you believe? And then there's the ontology, the identity of everything, and then chastology, anyway, I can't pronounce that word. What happens at the time of death, and then, I forget the other names of the ologies, and then the spiritual world, what happens there, and then different relationships in the spiritual world, and the comparative of different relationships in the spiritual world, and comparison of different types of liberation. Everything is there so elaborately described. It is a science. It is not a sentimental path. You just have to love, and everything will be all right. But how to love? What is the symptoms of love? How can you identify false love? What is real love? Very, very precise. And that's one of the reasons I took up Krishna consciousness, because everything is scientifically very nicely described. It is not something that is left open to your imagination, although you can use your imagination in pleasing Krishna. But you can clearly identify between, or distinguish between that which is bogus and that which is real, using the description, the parameters mentioned in these literatures by the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Here's another literature by Srila Jiva Goswami, which I've been working on. Gopala Champuname Grandamaha Shura Nichalila Stapana Yahe Raja Rasa Pura. The most famous and formidable transcendental literature is the book named Gopala Champu. In this book, the eternal pastimes of the Lord are established, and the transcendental mellows enjoyed in Vrindavan are completely described. So what the Gopal Champu does, it expands on the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and it gets into really elaborate descriptions of the interactions between Krishna and his associates in the spiritual world. So, and also in his manifest pastimes in this world. I've actually been working on it. If you're interested, you can go to iskondesiretree.com and look up my recitation on the Gopal Champu. I haven't finished it. I still got a lot to go. I haven't had much time to work on it recently. But hopefully before I go to Yamaraj, I will finish it. So purport. In the Zana Bhasha, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives the following information about the Gopal Champu. The Gopal Champu is divided into two parts. The first part is the eastern wave, and the second part is the northern wave. In the first part, there are 33 supplications. In the second part, 37 supplications. In the first part, completed in 1510 Shikhabda, that's AD 1588. So you add about 70 years, I think. 78 years, yeah. You add about 78 years, and you get the AD. The following subject matters are discussed. 1. Vrindavan and Goloka. 2. The killing of the Putana demon, the gopis returning home under the instructions of Mother Yashoda, the bathing of Lord Krishna and Balaram, and the Snigdha Kanta and Madhu Kanta. They're the ones who narrate the whole thing. The dream of Mother Yashoda, the Janmashtami ceremony, the meeting between Nanda Maharaj and Vasudev, the killing of the Putana demon, the awakening, pastimes of awakening from bed, the deliverance of the demon, Shakata, that's Shakata Shura, and the name-giving ceremony. 7. The killing of the Trinavarta demon, Lord Krishna's eating dirt, Lord Krishna's childhood naughtiness, and Lord Krishna's a thief. The churning of the yogurt, Krishna's drinking from the breast of Mother Yashoda, the breaking of the yogurt pot, Krishna bound with ropes, the deliverance of the two brothers Yamala Arjuna, and the lamentation of Mother Yashoda. Entering Vrindavana, the killing of Vatsasura, Vakasura, and Vyomasura, the killing of Agasura and the bewilderment of Lord Rama, the tending of the cows in the forest, taking care of the cows and chastising the Kaliya serpent, the killing of Gardabhasura, the ass demon, and the praise of Krishna, the previous attraction of the gopis, the killing of Palambasura and the eating of the forest fire, the gopis' attempt to approach Krishna, the lifting of Govardhan Hill, bathing Krishna with milk, the return of Nanda Maharaj from the custody of Varuna, and the vision of Goloka Vrindavan by the gopis, the performance of the rituals in Katyayani Vrata and the worship of the goddess Durga, the begging of food from the wives of the Brahmanas, performing sacrifices, the meeting of Krishna and the gopis, Krishna's enjoying the company of the gopis, the disappearance of Radha and Krishna from the scene, and the search for them by the gopis. As I'm reading them, I'm actually visualizing these, so hopefully you're doing the same. The reappearance of Krishna, the determination of the gopis, pastimes in the waters of the Yamuna, the deliverance of Nanda Maharaj from the clutches of the serpent, various pastimes in solitary places, the killing of Shankha Chuda and the Hori, the killing of Aristashura, the killing of the Keshi demon, the appearance of Sri Narada Muni, and a description of the year in which the book was completed. And the second part, known as the Uttara Champu, which is what I'm working on right now. I finished the first part, the Purva Champu. The following subject matter is described: attraction from Brajabhumi, the cruel activities of Akrura, because he took Krishna out of Vrindavan, Krishna's departure from Mathura, for Mathura. Is the video freezing for everybody? Or is it just Rishikesh? Someone answer. Can everyone see this? Is the just Rishikesh? Okay. Krishna's departure from Mathura, a description of the city of Mathura, the killing of Kamsa, Nanda Maharaj's separation from Krishna and Balaram, Nanda Maharaj's entrance into Vrindavan without Krishna and Balaram. Phew, that's horrible. The studies of Krishna and Balaram, how the son of the teacher of Krishna Balaram was returned, Uddhava's visit to Vrindavan, Radharani is talking with the messenger bumblebee, the return of Uddhava from Vrindavan, the binding of Jarasandha, the killing of Kaliyavana, the marriage of Balaram, the marriage of Rukmini, 7 marriages, the killing of Narakasura, the taking of the Parijata flower from heaven, and Krishna's marriage to 16,000 princesses, victory over Bhanasura, a description of Balaram's return to Braj, the killing of Pundraka, the imitation Vishnu, the killing of Dvidvita, the gorilla, and thoughts of Hastinapur, the departure for Kurukshetra, how the residents of Vrindavan and Dwarka met at Kurukshetra, Krishna's consolation with Uddhava, the deliverance of the king, the performance of the Rajasuya sacrifice, the killing of Shalva, Krishna's considering returning to Vrindavan, Krishna's revisiting Vrindavan, the adjustment of obstructions by Srimati Radharani and others. Wow. Everything completed. The residence of Radha and Madhava, decorating Srimati Radharani and Krishna, the marriage ceremony of Srimati Radharani and Krishna, Jai. The meeting of Srimati Radharani and Krishna, and entering Kaloka. So, I'm about 2/3 finished with this book. And actually, we've only published up to chapter 22 or something like that. Champakalata is working with me on the music. And just reading about this makes me want to get back into doing the recitation. I have to pray to Krishna for time. The problem is, right now, all these Zoom calls. We have so many GBC meetings, many more than we've ever had before, because of COVID. Previously, before COVID, we would meet at certain times of the year, and then when the meeting was over, it's all over. But now the meeting continues, or the meetings continue, continually dealing with different subject matters, whether we should have Vaishnavi Diksha Gurus, how to deal with the disciples of departed Vaishnavas. It gets really complicated. I will have to have a computer built into me. Actually, I think my disciple Gopal is getting me computer glasses so I can just like walk around like a zombie on Zoom 24 hours a day. Anyway, so let's stop here for now. I'm going to have to basically be buried with computer stuff. Stop here from now, and we will take questions as soon as I unmute you all, or give you all the permission to unmute yourselves. Okay, so who has a question?
Oh my God.
Oh, Amrita Karan.
Please accept my humble
Brahmachari
obeisance.
wants to take sannyas. I want to introduce everybody to Amrita Karan. He's from New Orleans. Well, he's not, actually from India. So, but he lives in New Orleans, and he wants to take sannyas. He's given up all attachments to this world and wants to renounce this world.
Only by your blessing, Maharaj. Please
Only
accept
by
my
my-
humble obeisances, sir. All glories
Okay.
to Srila Prabhupada.
So you have a
Ma-
question?
Yeah, Maharaj, here it is, you mentioned that Jiva Goswami mentioned that worshipping of goddess Durga, but generally we are not worshipping demigods. So I could not get it properly.
Okay, so here's the point. Worshipping goddess Durga. The gopis worship goddess Durga Caitanya to get Krishna as their husband. And another thing, this is really interesting, which very few people know about. The gopis one time worshipped Indra. Practically nobody knows about this.
I don't.
Except for me, not because I'm a gopi, but because I know it. So why do they worship Indra? Because when Krishna was leaving Vrindavan, they were praying to Indra to create a violent thunderstorm and bad weather, so that Krishna could not leave Vrindavan. Very nice. I mean, the acharyas talk about this. I didn't just make this up out of my fertile imagination. So for the service of Krishna, there's sometimes worship of the demigods. Like even you have information about Ganapati worship sometimes. And you have Vaishnavas who worship Lord Shiva to help give them devotion. So in other words, if the demigods are worshipped as devotees, then we can pay them respect. But if we worship them as God, that's a Vidi Purvakam. So you see, and of course you're aware in Mayapur, outside of many temples, there's a Durga Mandap, right?
Yeah, Mayapur, outside the temple, the Karmi people generally...
Even outside our Jagannath Baladev and Subhadra temple. right?
Yeah, there is a Navadip. There is one Shakti Peeth like
Yeah,
Pauramatala. That
yes. And Lord Shiva is the Dikpala,
mm,
the guardian of the holy dham. So we respect the demigods, especially Durga's a pure devotee. She's initiated with Hare Krishna mantra by Haridas Thakur.
mm.
So I respect her as a pure devotee. I respect Lord Shiva. I beg Lord Shiva for his blessings. I do not worship Indra because he's not a pure devotee. I worship anybody who serves Krishna as a pure devotee.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Maharaj.
especially
Thank you.
Yamaraj. I pray to
Yama.
Yamaraj every day. No, I don't. I don't. But anyway, Yamaraj is one of the Mahajans, right?
Another Maharaj, we respect, of course.
Yeah, Yamaraj, and then we have uh, so many Mahajans. We have Shukadev Goswami. We have as Mahajan Lord Brahma as a Mahajan. So we respect them. They're like acharyas.
Sambhunarada Samrupa.
Yeah, Swayambhu. So here, anyway, here's another question online. Hare Krishna, Guru Dev, please accept my obeisances. Are there unlimited Goloka planets in Goloka realm? There's only one Goloka Vrindavan, Goloka planet, but it is unlimited. In the spiritual world, is Goloka, the planet of the cows, and it's unlimited. Does that make sense? There's not. There's only one Goloka planet, but it is so big, it's bigger than everything else. So when we talk about planets, the planets are different. Like when you have a planet like Goloka Vrindavan, which is like a lotus flower. It's not like, the Earth planet. It doesn't look like the Earth planet. It doesn't seem like the Earth planet. It's different. It's location. Loka. Go Loka. Go Loka Namni. Nija Namni. So, very interesting. So, who else wants to ask a question? Anybody else? Pran Govinda's not here tonight.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev.
Oh, Rishikesh, Hare Krishna. Good to
Hare
see
Krishna,
you.
Gurudev. Gurudev, I have a question. Being in a conditioned body, I'm so much have a habit to think only about myself first. Giving myself the pleasure always.
Yeah.
How do I practically? Can you give me some practically? How do I practice giving pleasure to Krishna or devotees? How do I? What do I do? Because
Think
I'm so
think
much.
about the pleasure of your spiritual master.
Okay.
That's how, because our spiritual master or Prabhupada, it brings devotional service down to earth for us. Because it's very hard to be thinking of Krishna's pleasure. He's all the way, I hate to use the word, up there, He's far away. He's also near as well. Uh, Bahir Nishingo, Hridaye Nishingo, Nishingamadim, Sharanam Prapade. Anyway, so Krishna's in our heart. But to really conceive a Takshi Krishna Namadi, Nabhavek Grayam Indriyai, Sevan Mukhehi Jivado, Swayameva Spirachara. To actually conceive of Krishna is very hard, but to conceive of Guru is very easy. Just like this morning, I was commenting about your spiritual master, Bhakti Chumash. I was thinking, remembering him and thinking how wonderful he taught all of his disciples Vaishnava etiquette so nicely. I mean, his disciples, because I'm dealing a lot with a lot of the disciples of Bhakti Chumash, helping them, I'm on the Samadhi committee, like that, and so many other committees. And so I just seen so much nice etiquette. Sometimes you'll see, maybe there's some gurus who don't train their disciples so nicely, and they think, oh, my guru is so great, everybody else is just like a dog. And then they step on everybody else in serving their guru. And they violate all sorts of ecstasies. I've seen that happen. And it's really nasty when someone does that. They actually violate etiquette in serving their guru, because that's But Bhakti True Maharaj trained his disciples in such a nice way that they're all just very sweet. It's like a sugar candy disciples. So, if you remember, my disciples are like hot peppers. So anyway, so that's funny. So anyway, if you remember your guru, then you think what will please him, then actually it becomes much easier. And then because the guru is trying to please Krishna, things equal to the same thing are equal to each other. That's called the tautology. Things equal to the same thing are equal to each other. So, all right. Does that answer the question?
Yes, Gurudev.
Thank you for the question. Here's an interesting one that was just posted probably by Pran Govinda, who's our, yes. Here's the prayer to Caitanya. Each of the young unmarried girls performed her worship, that means Caitany's worship, while chanting the following mantra: O Goddess Caitanya, O great potency of the Lord, O possessor of great mystic power and mighty controller of all, please make the son of Nanda Maharaj my husband. I offer my obeisances unto you. Wow. Krishna's opulence will be revealed if they worship Krishna thus. What? I don't even understand. Krishna's opulence will be revealed if they worship Krishna thus. Oh yeah. Yeah, so they're worshiping Katyayani because if they worship Krishna directly, then they'll understand his opulence, which will disturb their natural love for him. That's the position of the gopis. I am not on that level, so I worship Krishna directly. I worship Krishna's devotees, like His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. If we worship Krishna's devotee, that's how we should pray. We can actually put Prabhupada there. Oh Prabhupada, O possessor of great devotion and great spiritual master, please make the son of Nanda Maharaj my worshipful Lord. I'm not going to say husband. Anyway, we can pray to Prabhupada like that. Oh, Mr. Govinda, another sannyas candidate.
Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Prabhupada.
You have one more year to go before you're approved for sannyas. So during this next year, you have to be good. After that, you can be bad.
No, I'm always will be at your lotus feet. It doesn't matter. I feel more safer. At least for this life.
All right, this life. All right, next life, you can be a rascal. Okay, so so what's the question?
Maharaj, can I ask you a little technical question? I mean, you are very jolly mood. You are making everybody happy. I see you. I mean, I'm happy just by hearing your voice. But I have a technical question. I just don't know whether I was thinking, should I ask? All
right, ask a technical question.
Okay. Thank you for allowing me. Maharaj, what is the difference between Satchidananda body versus spiritualized body? Because in one sense,
I can explain.
I'm going to give you an analogy why it is disturbing my mind. Krishna has a Satchidananda eternal body, full of bliss, full of knowledge. Rupa Goswami Pad's body also, Srila Prabhupada's body, they are also Satchidananda or not only spiritualized?
They're spiritualized. Well, Rupa Goswami I'm not going to comment on, but Prabhupada, when a devotee engages something 100% in Krishna's service, you know that verse? Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir Brahmagno Brahmanahutam Brahma Karma Samadhinam. When you engage something fully in Krishna's service, it becomes spiritualized. Like Prabhupada said, you take an iron rod and you put it in fire and it eventually becomes fire. So that's spiritualized. I mean, Prabhupada's body that he manifests on this earth planet is not his eternal spiritual body.
What about Rupa Goswami? Six Goswami.
Rupa Goswami, I'm not going to comment on that because I don't have that information.
Okay.
It's possible, because the these pure devotees have an eternal sadhaka form too.
I heard that too. I want to confirm with you, Maharaj. You are my reference.
Yes, the pure devotees, because they're always present in Lord Chaitanya's Lila, so they have an eternal sadhaka form. So I am not going to comment on that. But as far as Srila Prabhupada is concerned, and Prabhupada's assistants and everything, their bodies are spiritualized.
Okay.
Is that?
Yeah, Sachidananda is little different. I mean, they have
Sachidananda is different. Sachidananda is different. Spiritualized body means that you have a body made of Bhumi Rupo Analo Vayu. Anyway, so earth, water, fire, Panchamahabhuta, but that body is devoid of the three modes of nature.
Correct. That is spiritualized.
So spiritualized.
Yeah.
It's spiritualized.
Jivan Mukta.
It acts as spirit. Just like if you put an iron into the fire, it's still iron, but it acts just like fire. So that's the example. Good question. One other question is raised online, and then we can end. Jiva Shakti asked a question from her son. Why is Krishna always born in Vrindavan? Because Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. Actually, that's an interesting question. Some people think Krishna was born in Mathura, and actually it's an expansion of Krishna that was born in Mathura. And the original Krishna was born as the son of Nanda and Yashoda in Vrindavan. And the expansion, when he was brought into Vrindavan by Vasudeva, entered into the original Krishna born in Vrindavan. Krishna is always born in Vrindavan because Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. Even when it appears that Krishna leaves Vrindavan, when he's taken out of Vrindavan by Akrura, he's not actually. His expansion is taken out of Vrindavan. But the original Krishna, two hands playing a flute, is always there in Vrindavan. Sometimes he's manifest, sometimes he's not manifest, according to Prakrata. This is the nature of Krishna.
Haribangsa referred that, Maharaj. I know that verse, but there is a verse in Haribangsa, Ballapi Bhagavan Krishna, Koisharam Rupa Masrita. While he was playing with Radharani, he took also birth, according to Haribangsa, in Jashoda mother's house.
Yeah.
This verse confirms.
Yes, yeah. And then also Galoka Ivanivashati.
Yes. Goloka Ivanivashati, Akilat Mavuta. Yes.
Akilat Mavuta. Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. He wouldn't even dream of leaving Vrindavan. In his wildest dreams, he never dreams of leaving Vrindavan. Even in Vrindavan, when the demons are killed, he does it as his expansion. Okay.
Maharaj, you are a Brajabasi because you have so much love for Prabhupada. And I remember that story when they were reading the text 8 on Nectar of Instruction, that one should do bhajan under a Brajabasi's guidance. And they asked Prabhupada, so who should we follow? Prabhupada said, I'm here.
Yeah.
And now you revealed you are a Brajabasi.
I'm a Mayavasi.
No, you are Brajabasi.
Nah, I am just a computer Vasi. I'm just in love with my computer, with cars, with fast cars and computers and everything like that.
New Kolokavasi.
Nikalakavasi. All right. I guess that's it. We're going to end now. One thing I wanted to say is, Andy, I forgot your email address. If you could, let me just give you my email address right now. So just write me a letter. I wanted to write you, Andy, and just communicate with you. I'm sending it just to Andy. Anyway, my email address is bkgoswami@earthlink.net. I'll give you a second to write that down, because I know you wanted to correspond with me, and I forgot your email address for some reason. That's bkgoswami, just one word, @earthlink.net, and you want to copy that. All right, so we want to thank everybody for joining us, and tomorrow evening here, it's Friday evening, we'll be continuing with the Caitanya Caritamrta. This particular section of the Caitanya Caritamrta is dealing with the books of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, and especially this Gopal Champu. It's an amazing literature by Srila Jiva Goswami. It is so voluminous. That's why it's taken me so long to do as a narration. I've done so many other books as narrations, such as the Lalita Madhava, Vidagna Madhava, Mukta Charita, and other books like that. But this has taken me a long time, so I have to continue doing it. So thank you very much. We'll see everybody tomorrow evening. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai.